morning. Thank you for joining us on the Congruence podcast. Congruence, where faith and business come together. It has been such a joy doing this show for the last few months and seeing the listening participation increase and grow. That's really been fun. I just want to do a quick shout out to Leadwell Pacific, my coaching and consulting organization. Leadwell works with organizations to help them to change the culture within their organization, to move away from leadership structures that suck the life out of their employees to being life-giving. And believing that life-giving relationship that happens within the organization also flows outside of the organization to the customers that you serve, as well as the community that your organization serves. And so just a quick shout out to Leadwell. All of that information is going to be below on the banner. So if that sounds like something that you would like to recommend to your boss because you're tired of him sucking the life out of you, or you are the business owner and you want to give a gift to your organization, you might want to give me a call and I'd be happy to talk to you. Today I'm being joined by Kimberly Reinhardt. Kimberly works with so many different organizations that I'm going to turn it over to Kimberly in just a minute. Let her talk about all the different organizations that she works with. A couple of them will be showing up on the banner today, and so look for that. So Kimberly and I met in one of those haphazard kind of just conversational things where literally I butted into her conversation. We were sitting in the picnic tables outside of 1022 South J here in Tacoma, and she was in a meeting, and my organizational radar was on, and I could tell that they were talking about some frustrations within an organization and some board challenges, and this like, whew, that's the kind of stuff I like. And so I found an opportunity to interrupt them. I think it had to do with comments about your appetizers or your drink. Actually, it was your drink that you guys.
The drink.
It was a special one. I think that either it was a special one they created for you or that you were just testing. I can't remember.
I was testing that particular cocktail.
Yeah.
On occasion, they bring out cocktails and I test them there.
Yeah, they're a cool place. I like them.
Yeah.
And what was funny about this situation, all right, is that I invited Kimberly and Krista to be guests on my show before I ever had a show.
That's just your brilliance, Scott.
That's what's funny about that, right? I mean, they predate the show. They do not predate the conception of the show, but they predate the show. And so it's fun to finally have you join me. And why don't you tell us just a little bit about yourself and your organizations that you work with?
I am kind of a self-made person that comes from a self-made woman who very strongly taught me how to run businesses at a very young age, and how to not necessarily accept a certain kind of structure as far as employment goes. So I my whole life have been volunteering and working in community and doing service, and of course that's led to this point where I'm very involved in helping nonprofits repair themselves. I'm the executive director of the Mason County Host Program, which works with homeless youth. I run the presiding organization with a co-executive director that provides regulatory information to all the host programs in the state of Washington. I am on the board of the Center for Independence in Pierce County, which, by the way, was my second employment situation after I graduated from college, and now I'm back there on the board, which feels like a good spot to be in. I am the vice president of the Tacoma Women of Color Collective, and just very involved in service in a lot of different communities. So that's at this point, it's not so much about what I'm doing, but the impact of what I'm doing for me. So I'm not 20 and just getting a job. I've worked a
Yeah.
hard life and have some privilege now. And I'm trying to use that to raise up other organizations and communities and things like that.
I think, talking about giving back, I think about having the privilege to choose work that has meaning and purpose.
Hmm.
Because quite frankly, some folks don't have that privilege.
I know.
They're working really hard to find purpose and meaning out of their job on the conveyor belt of putting a burger on a bed of lettuce.
Absolutely.
And the funny thing about that is that there is huge purpose and meaning in that, right?
Huge.
I mean,
Yep.
come on.
Yeah.
We all like our burgers. I mean,
Yeah.
that's like there's nothing more American than like a cheeseburger.
Yeah.
But still, when you're in the midst of it, it's hard to find meaning and purpose.
Hmm.
And I love talking about meaning and purpose, especially in conjunction with concepts like congruence.
Hmm.
And I am really that's cool that you mentioned that is a privilege.
Well, I mean, it all is. I come from a life where there's been plenty of struggle, and in the midst of that, I've been blessed enough to develop all of this privilege to do what I do to try to help other folks in my life and communities. I was helped in a similar way. I had a very strong mom who taught me about service to community when we had nothing, and said, even when you have nothing, you have something to give someone else. And so that's what I grew up with, and that is very strong and a theme for me in prayer and in action every day.
Wow,
So
that's cool.
yeah,
I think our mothers may have known each other.
quite
'Cause
possibly.
Mine had similar philosophies. We were just talking. I noticed that you have a fancy new piece of technology that fits in your pocket that you occasionally bring out to speak into a new cell phone.
I do.
And one of the questions that we ask on the show often is, what's a gift that you'll never forget? And you had a gift story related to that new phone that you have.
I do have a gift story. So I was on vacation in Mexico and decided that I wanted to ride all-terrain vehicles, and had a whole discussion with myself about not taking that phone out of my pocket or out of my backpack, and then got to the ocean, and we'd been out on those for 3 hours, and it was the most beautiful thing and felt like I worked for that. So I took my phone out to take a picture and then slid it back into my pocket and took off at 70 miles an hour across these sand flats.
Yeah.
And what do you know? I got back and the phone was gone. And I literally had no panic. I thought, okay, God just gave that to me because I'm plugged in 24 hours a day and work like a crazy person.
Yeah.
And so this is the gift that I get to be actually on vacation, that I'm not plugged in any way, that I am just focused on trying to refuel myself and looking at how beautiful this culture is around me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I took it. I put a message out on Facebook and said, I'll see you in 9 days. I lost my phone and I communicated with no one. So it was an incredible, incredible gift. I came back, I think, more intellectually and emotionally sound because I wasn't plugged into electronics.
Yeah.
So,
Well, not just a gift to yourself, also a gift to those that you're with.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. No, I was present the whole time. So
Yeah.
that's a whole different scenario. Normally I'm trying to do 10, 20 things at the same time and up in the middle of the night and working, and I just didn't. I just slept and ate and enjoyed the local culture and shared with who I was with, and like it was a beautiful, beautiful experience.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm not so quick now to just jump right into the craziness when I got back. I noticed that it set a precedent for me because of the impact of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I know in our house, like just yesterday, Holly was talking about a podcast that she had been listening to
Mm-hmm.
that was talking about the importance of making sure that the best gifts are shared at home,
Mm.
and that how common it is that people that are active in ministry, people that are active in community service,
Mm-hmm.
people that are active in executive leadership, that's where all the time, that's where all the attention, that's where all the giftedness goes.
Yeah.
And then home is that refuge you go where you get to escape to. And by the time you get there, it's like, what's left of you?
Yeah.
And whew, that hit me hard when
Yeah.
she was joking about that last night because she was going to go work on an art project, and I'm like, it's 10:30. I got to go to bed.
Exactly.
And she's like, I only get the dregs of you. It's like, oh no, how did this come
Yeah.
back to me so quickly? We just had this conversation an hour ago. But it's it's a sobering truth.
And it's one of those things that's, like one of the strongest themes in my life has always been God only helps those who help themselves. And if you can't value yourself enough to, like you say, go to bed.
Yeah,
Say, I love you, wife, and I'm going to bed. Right?
right.
I don't know how you take care of wife,
Yeah,
right? But that's really hard in real time when you're in relationship and whatever kind of relationship that is, whether it's in the community, with a partner, with a spouse, whatever it is. These are all things that challenge this idea of how we take care of ourselves.
yeah,
And I'm going at it for myself in 2020 in a very real way, whether it's with my body or time or my time with devices or focusing. The work that I do with homeless youth is just, I'm so blessed to be doing it, right? And it's one of the spots that gives me the most pure joy that I've ever experienced in my life. And so I want to make sure that I prioritize that and in a way that they continue to feel the impact of me focusing on their lives and the time that I have with them. And that means I have to take better care of myself, which leads back to what you just said.
yeah.
Yeah.
I want to just real quick take a minute and ask you just straight up, if somebody is listening to this show or watching it right now live, and they wanted to have the opportunity to give, to help make an impact on homeless youth, how would they do that? How would they reach out to you or your organization? And is it money? Is it stuff? Is it time and service, volunteer hours? What would be the best gift that they could give?
So being that I deal with nonprofits that are in crisis, one of the things that I say to them always about volunteer programs is whoever you get as a volunteer, have them do one thing at a time and do it really well. So if what I really need folks to do is decide what they have to give. That's the first thing. And if it is a $20 bill or if it is deciding to be a mentor, then do that one thing. Don't do more than one thing because homeless youth don't have time for you to not know yourself. They need you to show up in a real way, in a way you've self-determined in their lives or don't. And so the ways in which you can support are however you choose it to be. Those options for that might be money. It might be someone who decides they want to just engage with youth as a peer mentor. It could be food, hygiene products. It could be fun. It could be calling me up and getting approved to volunteer and take a couple of kids out to a movie. It can be all of the above. It's just really the most important part is that you don't overwhelm yourself so that whatever you bring to those marginalized lives is impactful. And the ways that you can reach out to me is I can be reached at, is it okay if I give out a phone number?
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what
Okay. A phone
go for
number,
it.
a good phone number would be 360-349-1525. I can be texted there well, and I do very well with texts, a little slower on email, just to be transparent. And I can also be reached at, the email address is masoncountyhost@gmail.com. And even if you have questions that don't have anything to do with homeless youth and just want to talk to somebody else who's in the community doing good works, I'm always open to that because every contact has the potential for greatness. And that's kind of how I work through life. So even if you just want to call up and talk to me, I'm good with that.
All right.
Because I know nothing happens by accident.
Tell me what HOST stands for.
Housing Options for Students in Transition.
Okay.
And so there is a movement that was created in Minnesota Around host homes, they really didn't know what that meant. I don't really think anybody did, but we're all kind of figuring out at this point, and they know that foster care on its own doesn't work, that it's one answer, but it's a systemic limited answer. And so host homes was created with a basic infrastructure to say you can have people in the community that would like to host homeless youth for a certain amount of time to get them through the educational process and offer some stability. And so it becomes a really useful program in urban and rural settings. It's very inexpensive to run. A 6-bed shelter will cost over $1 million a year.
Right.
A host home project that serves, depending on how you run it, 10 to 30 students you could run for under 500,000.
Wow.
And that includes giving financial stipends to students to encourage them to come to school and do what they need to do to take care of themselves. So it's important that this model is being moved throughout the nation, and now it is. And it's definitely taken hold in the East and the West in Washington State. And so I'm just lucky enough to be part of the best practices and regulatory part of it at this point.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool. I want to circle back now to that question I asked earlier about the gift that you'll never forget, because you'd made a comment earlier that yes, you'd be happy to talk about Mexico, but that you had another thought around a gift that you'll never forget.
I did. I was thinking this morning. I try to meditate every morning for at least 5 minutes just to balance myself, because there's a lot that goes on in this body and brain. And in meditation, a very strong image came to me. My biological father was not in my life. He struggled a lot with addiction, and we were lucky enough that he made the two of us, helped make the two of us, but he wasn't able to really be in our lives. And when he passed away, my brother lives in Germany, and he said, "Can you go pick up the ashes?" And this was in a Midwest state, and I said, "Sure." And I hadn't seen him since I was a kid, and there were some personal effects there. And when I opened the box, I could smell him. And I hadn't smelled him since I was a kid. And I thought, he was not able to give me anything but that, but I still have that.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave this world with knowing what my biological father smelled like. Like, I don't think he even knew my birthday, right?
Yeah.
But I know what that man smells like. And if that scent hit me when I was walking down the street, I know that person was probably related to him somehow.
Wow.
So I thought I'm just so that's one of those gifts that's like not a gift how folks think about it, but it truly is a gift knowing what his limitations were and the fact that he was never really going to be my dad, that I know something about him. And so I think about that as a really just like the most amazing gift.
I laugh when you said that because it totally resonates with me. My adopted father, when he died, one of the things that for one reason or another, it ended up in my possession, was this throw blanket that he had used in the last few years of his life. I got to tell you, it took me 5 years before I was willing to let that be laundered. Right. Because the exact same reason. Yeah. It smelled like him. Yeah. It wasn't the most pleasant smell. Right. But it was him. Yeah. And I connected, right? I was like, wow, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and it really just reminds me about the things that people don't, that you just really have real ownership on, and those tangible experiences that are just so organic and at a cellular level, like the smell of someone. It reminds me that we all probably should be trying to slow down life a little bit so that we acknowledge those things. Yeah. And I'm guilty as everybody else of roaring through my days. So that when I woke up this morning and was thinking about that, I thought, wow, I do need to slow down a little bit, So
So at the gym this morning, I was having a similar thought as it was like, well, I don't have a razor, so I can't shave this morning, but I do have my deodorant spray, so at least I can smell good.
Right? Smell is one of those really strong things, I mean, I think if I went out on a date, the date didn't have to be amazing, but if you smell good, I'm always going to remember that.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And if you don't,
I'm always going to remember that for sure. And you never get another date, probably.
Yeah. Yeah. No. And we are not necessarily, just in case you're curious, advocating that you go through your day walking up and down sidewalks, smelling people. We're not advocating that. We're just calling out that it is a real thing. And at a base level, you can work your butt off to show up and meet everyone's expectations, the world's expectations, a company's expectations, fashion's expectations, romantic expectations. Reality is you're going to fail at probably 9 out of 10 of those.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you are who and what you are at a cellular level, and what you see, touch, and feel matters. And it's why I think that the greatest gift that parents can give is a hug and time.
I agree with you so strongly. When I first got started working with homeless youth, I was told, don't tell them you love them and don't hug. And my immediate response to that was, I don't think you're talking to me, because these are children that need structure to develop their own structure. And that comes from things like touch and from knowing that someone actually loves you for no other reason except you're worthy of it. And so I can't agree with you more. It's one of those founding principles in my life. If you're in the building that I work in, and while I'm working with kids, you will hear from outside that door laughter, you will see hugs, you will hear me telling students I love them, not because I feel like I have to, but because I do.
Yeah.
And I don't lie about such things, because it's one of those basic things. I think so much at age 52 about legacy right now. That's a strong theme. And one of the things that I want part of my legacy to be is that I wasn't fooled by the things that I think sometimes darkness presents to you about. There's so much darkness, right? And there's a lot more light, and that begins with I love you and a hug.
Yeah.
Not rocket science.
And the power of I love you because I love you because I love you.
Yeah.
Not because you did anything
Nope.
to earn it. Because there's nothing that you can do to earn my withholding it. I love you because I love you. Because I love you, period. It's just, you're a human being, and that's my response to the world around me is to give love.
That's how I was raised. I mean, we had a blended family. My stepfather, who I hesitate to call him that because he's the only dad I've ever had, and I am incredibly bonded to him. And he chose me and I chose him, which is a very special relationship. So I was raised with that kind of I love you because I love you because I love you, And so the best thing I can do for my parents' legacy is to make sure that goes out, not just to family, but to everyone that I'm capable in the moment of giving that to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very cool. That's very cool. I'm curious. We've talked about the work you do bringing you joy. We've talked about cruising down the beach at 70 miles an hour.
It's brilliant.
What else brings you joy?
My nieces. I have a 6 and 8-year-old nieces that are probably the most amazing little creatures I've just about ever met, and who, just like my mom, teach me about that I love you because I love you because I love you stuff. It's really that kind of love is the same coming from a 6-year-old niece or an 8-year-old niece or my 74-year-old mom. Those concepts are exactly the same. So I love spending time with family. I am a low-key writer, so I enjoy very much writing. Obviously, service to community is a huge part of who I am and is going to be there till I'm not drawing breath anymore. I am a lover of comedy and of being a jokester. I would not call myself, even though I do a lot of serious work, there's a balance to that, which is me as a jokester. I like watching humans win. That's probably my greatest joy. I like watching humans win. Because I think that we get taught from the time that we're born, since we draw breath and come out of someone's body, that we were taught endlessly about not winning. We're actually taught how to lose.
Right.
So I very much am about changing that mentality in the work that I do with the Tacoma Women of Color Collective. I have a huge group of women around me that are passionate and strong and in their communities, and I get to be a mentor to, and they teach me as well. And so probably the thing that brings me the most joy is just sharing, just finding out about the human experience, and finding out how we can expand it and watching humans win. It's really important to me. Yeah.
That's very cool. It's very cool. How does faith show up in the work you do?
It shows up everywhere for me. Since I was very young, I've had what I would call an unshakable faith. And my faith is different, I think, because I think that religion has been at times a bully, and faith never is, right?
I love that.
And so for me, it was figuring out as a young person sort of how I remain faithful to my faith, and draw a line between sometimes what inspired religious text means and what I know means. And so at this point, it's not even at this point, my whole life my faith has been unshakable. I shake my faith, but other folks don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So faith shows up everywhere for me. I don't expect anybody to think how I think. And I have many of my friends that absolutely don't believe in God or Christ or any sort of organized belief system. And when we talk about it, they use different terms, but we talk about the same morality and the same ethics. And so I'm very much about sort of welcoming people into my walk through, but not judging their walk. So faith shows up everywhere. I don't duck faith in any conversation with any human. Lots of times these days, folks of faith duck words that describe religion or faith because we're in a time right now where a lot of folks are saying that they're not believers anymore. And so there is a lot of times they contribute the sensitivity to the folks who aren't believers, but I actually think the believers are more sensitive than the non-believers, in that sort of way as it relates to religion, just because we know that there's a lot of expectation that's put on this, but my pastor is so inspirational to me. I go to a church on Hilltop, Miles Memorial Christian Church, and my pastor, I'm going to shout her out right now because she's amazing, Carolyn Thomas. She has been the most beautiful person in my life, like another mother figure with the added dimension of being a religious leader. And one who welcomed me in the door, and I was very skeptical when I got there. I had a very point-blank conversation with her about sexuality and a whole bunch of stuff, and she is a very powerful, strong black woman, and she held up to that conversation, and she didn't budge, and she's had my back the whole time. And I ask a lot of questions. I think I know a lot some days. And she helps me to understand that as much as I know, there's so much more that I don't know. And so faith shows up every day, all day, in every situation for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That really is what congruence is about.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Is about taking all the facets of our world and aligning them so that what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
You're not getting this image of me that's reflected off of something else. You're seeing who and what I am. And I think that is something really that I ascribe to, that it's hard. I'm one of those people that has really struggled of late calling myself a Christian. I don't have any issue calling myself a Christ follower. Zero. Right?
Right.
You want to see me bristle, make a comment like, "Oh, you're very religious." Whew.
Right.
I was like, wow, that I struggle with, but
Right.
in truth, there is a lens that people look at, and from that lens, I get it. I get why they say that.
Yeah.
But it's something that I think I want to really work towards in this next year, and we're running out of time, so I'll be quick with this. But I want to reclaim the fact that as a Christ follower, as a Jesus follower, I am a Christian, and that I want to be the kind of Christian that you are proud to be when you say you're a Christian.
Sure.
And I think that that's my goal going forward in this year.
Yeah, I mean, I completely get that. I'm surrounded with a lot of women that are younger than me that actively don't practice any organized religion. or faith associated with Christianity, and with great ease, have found a way to commune with them in faith. And so I'm looking at faith as a way to bridge and be with others and not divide.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining Kimberly and I today. I hope that you enjoyed our show and that you'll come back next week. I also hope that you will look at the banner below and that you will reach out to Kimberly and be of service as she is of service to the youth in Mason County, as well as the greater nonprofit community that she serves in leadership roles. Thank you again. It's been fun to have this conversation and to have you join us.
Thanks
Bye
for
now.
having me.